Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We're going to spend this hour with the man with the action-packed expense account, Bob Bailey, as yours truly, Johnny Dollar. A little later on, we'll get back to the Picture Postcard Matter from 1956, but right now we're going to start off with an episode from October 2nd, 1960, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, The Stope of Death Matter.
Johnny Dollar.
Dollar, my name is Hal Barker, Tri-Western Life Insurance Company.
Out in Los Angeles, California.
No, I'm holding down the branch office here in Reno, Nevada.
Well, made a change, huh?
That's right.
Well, how are you, Mr. Barker, and what can I do for you?
Are you available for an assignment? Can you fly on out here right away?
I don't see why not, as long as you're willing to pay the freight.
Good.
Yeah, you mind telling me what it's all about?
Well, not at all. One of our clients, a man named Walter Bisbee, has just died in a mining accident over near Virginia City.
Virginia City, the famous old ghost town, huh?
That's right. But now listen.
Yeah?
I don't think it was.
Was what, Mr. Barker?
Well, I don't think it was any accident.
Oh, you don't, huh?
No, and believe me, I don't say that just in the hope of not having to pay double indemnity on his insurance.
Why do you say it?
Well, I have no proof, Dollar, no proof at all. But I'm convinced that Walter Bisbee was murdered. That I know who murdered him and why.
Well, tell me more, Mr. Barker.
Fly on out here to Reno, and I will.
I'll grab the first plane I can.
CBS Radio brings you Bob Bailey in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Tri-Western Life Insurance Company, Reno, Nevada office. Following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the Stope of Death Matter. Expense account, item 1, $176.25, a jet to Los Angeles. Item 2, $32.70 for the flight to Reno, Nevada. Hal Barker met me at the airport, and we headed south on 395, then southeast on 17 toward Virginia City. Virginia City, by far the largest and most famous of the old mining towns of the West, with its quaint, colorful streets and fascinating buildings left over from the days when the Comstock Lode was the richest silver strike the world had ever known. Where it didn't take much imagination to visualize the grizzled old characters with burro and pick and shovel who roamed the desert hills in a stubborn search for gold-bearing quartz, who worked and fought and often died violently to keep others from getting their hands on the precious yellow metal, and who finally realized that the heavy blue mud they'd been discarding was the real bonanza, was loaded with rich silver ore. Yeah, you could almost see their ghosts walking the streets or stopping for a drink at the fabulous Crystal Bar or the lowly Bucket of Blood Saloon, depending on their luck. During the 23-mile ride over to this fascinating historical spot, Hal Barker filled me in.
Yeah, thanks to modern methods, modern tools of the trade, so to speak, Walter Bisbee and his partner did fairly well, Dollar.
Uh-huh.
They'd explored these old abandoned mines around here, supposedly all worked out, and they'd locate new ore strata that would pay off. Like I say, with modern, efficient recovery methods that weren't even known about during the gold rush days.
Yeah, like the big petroleum companies that found ways to get more oil out of wells the old-timers thought were pumped dry.
That's it exactly. Bisbee and Hargrave would locate these profitable veins and take a royalty from whoever worked them. And they'd go off and hunt for another spot. They made no fortune, but, well, they did pretty well. For a while, at least.
Hey, you said Hargrave. Bisbee's partner, Hal?
That's right, Bill Hargrave. Each of them claimed he couldn't do the job without the help of the other, so we wrote a partnership policy for them.
How much?
Upon the death of either one, the other was to receive $35,000. Double that for accidental death.
And now Bisbee is dead. Want to tell me just how it happened, Hal?
Well, The old mine where it happened is up here, just off the 6 Mile Road. The old Caterwall number 2.
Caterwall number 2? That's the name of a mine?
Yeah, well, you should hear the name of some of them. Anyhow, old Bill left Walter at the mine a couple of days ago, exploring one of the stopes, while he drove into Carson City for supplies. When Bill finally got back here to the Caterwall, he says he found the ceiling of the stope had collapsed.
Hey, wait a minute. He says. Why do you put it that way, Hal?
According to a state geologist I talked to early this morning, a man who knows the mine, has been inside of it many times, there was no reason in the world why it should have happened. Unless somebody helped it to.
Oh?
Well, that set me to thinking about the bad luck Bisbee and Hargrave have been having lately. And about how much it would benefit either one of them to have the other one die. Especially accidentally, on account of the double indemnity clause in that insurance policy.
Oh, well, now, Hal,
And then, when the geologists found where somebody had planted a charge of nitro...
Well, are they holding Bill Hargrave?
Why?
Why?
Well, unless the police find Bisbee's body, there's no actual proof he's dead. Remember, Dollar, Hargrave was in Carson City when it happened. Plenty of witnesses to that.
I see.
But he's the only person... I'm sure of it, Johnny. He's the only person who could possibly benefit by Walter Bisbee's death.
Oh, now, Hal, that doesn't make a case against him.
Now they're up ahead. That's the old Caterwall number 2.
Hey, what are they doing there?
Trying to get into the stope, find Bisbee's body.
Oh.
Hey, there's a surprise on that hill on top of the mine.
The man standing there by that block and tackle they've rigged up there?
Hey, that's Bill Hargrave.
Uh-huh. And he was perfectly willing for them to try to get in there and look for the body?
Well, yes, he was. And look, by the way, he's waving and shouting at that police officer down there. It looks like he's found something. Come on, Johnny. We'll see what it's all about.
On top of the small hill was a vertical ventilation shaft driven down into the mine. Hargrave had rigged up a support, a kind of tripod with a block and tackle on it, then lowered himself to the stope where Bisbee had been trapped, or to what was left of it. When Hal and I and the police officer got up there to him, Hargrave looked like a ghost, or as if he'd seen one. There was a strange expression in his eyes, his mouth half open, and his weather-beaten face so pale it was almost gray. When we questioned him, he simply stared at us until the police officer took him by the arm and shook him.
Well, come on, Hargrave. Did you get down there all right, down to the stope?
Yeah, I got down there. There's a clear space where Walter was working.
Did you find him? Well, come on, Hargrave.
Yeah, I found him. And listen.
Well?
He was murdered in there. Walter was murdered.
From Sunday, October 12th, 1960, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Our hour of Bob Bailey continues with part 2 of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, The Stope of Death Matter, this episode, October 2nd, 1960.
And now, Act 2 of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and The Stope of Death Matter.
When Walter Bisbee died in the gold mine cave-in, when a state geologist hinted that maybe a charge of nitro had caused the cave-in, both Hal Barker and the police figured it might have been done by Bill Hargrave to get rid of his partner, to collect the insurance on him. But as they started clearing away into the stope to look for Bisbee's body, it was Hargrave who took the lead. He rigged a kind of makeshift hoist above an air shaft, lowered himself into the mine. And down below, in a small space cluttered with the rocks and shoring and other debris piled up from the collapse of the ceiling of the stope, he'd found what was left of his partner.
Beaten to death. Walter, my partner, beaten to death down there. By somebody knowed we'd made another find down there.
Easy,
and
Mr.
then they
Hargrave.
blowed in the mine on top of him. They murdered him. Don't you understand? Somebody murdered Walter down there.
Okay, Bill, okay. Now, just take it easy.
Well, you're the law. Now you go and find out who killed him. Who killed my partner?
We'll try, Bill.
You'll try. Sure.
Dollar,
was said.
You want to go down there with me and help me recover the body?
Yeah, sure.
I'll have some of the men working on the slope come up here and give us a hand, lower us down this ventilating shaft.
Okay.
And Bill, you go on back to town. We'll bring the body in so you can give him a decent funeral.
funeral.
That's right.
No, officer.
What?
Why not, Hargrave?
Because Walter'd want to be buried here in the mine. The same as I would if this had happened to me.
But if you made a valuable find down there...
What are you talking about, Dollar? You think all the dirty yellow dust in the world would ever make up for a man like Walter Wesley? He was my partner. He was my friend. 20 years together, like brothers we were. Always together. Always share and share alike. When I found something, it was his, too. When he found something, it was mine as much as his. Well, didn't you know that?
Well, yes, and I understand the two of you did fairly well for a while.
Yeah. As long as the two of us worked together, of course we did. We opened up the old Higby's Folly, didn't we? And the old Yellow Jaybird.
Those were gold mines?
And they still had plenty in them. We showed them where. We showed them where to get it out.
When was that?
Oh, back in 1950, 51. It was Walter and me found the veins they'd passed on by. They thought those mines were all worked out, but we showed them different. We still had gold in them. We showed them where it was, Walter and me. And the Jolly Tar and the Frenchman's Luck back in 53. Walter and me. And now he's gone. Now he's through. Without him, without my partner, now I'm through. And I never want to see a mine again. All I want is to get away from here, now and forever. So, officer, you go on down there. You'll find him laying there, Walter, in the mine. It's the way he wanted it. It's the way that it's happened. And if the law says it's all right, you can leave him there, God rest his soul.
Well, now, of course, that's something that we'll have to...
And with those machines you got there on the slope, you can fill up this shaft and bury him. The way he'd have done for me, if I'd gone first.
Well, maybe we can do that, Bill.
Officer, I'd be mighty beholden to you if you would.
Now, you go on back to Virginia City, and if necessary, we'll talk to you later.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Dollar, let's get down inside the mine so I can verify the death and make out my report. I'm afraid I'm not used to one of these miner's lamps, Dollar.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I think we can see enough with them to just... Yeah, wait. Look. There he is.
Yes.
Good Lord. What a beating he took.
Beating?
Yeah, look at him. Look at his face.
Hey, officer. This man was knocked down, then kicked to death. Yeah, these marks on him, on his face. Hobnails.
Yeah, you're right, Dollar. Whoever did this to him stood right here. You see?
Yeah, I see.
And you see the print of his right foot deep in the dust, where he stood while he kicked and kicked with the other one?
And he is Walter Bisbee.
Yeah. Maybe we're going to have to leave him down here.
What do you mean?
Oh, 240, maybe 50 pounds. Up through that air shaft?
Oh, yeah. Maybe you got something there.
You and I, a couple of skinny guys, we barely made it. Only there was something around here could tell us who did this to him.
That footprint.
Hey, Dollar, there isn't a hard rock miner in this whole area doesn't wear shoes like that. Here, look, you see here? These other footprints, huh?
Yeah, well, those are probably Hargrave's from when he came down here through the air shaft to look for Bisbee.
Yep, that's right. Same kind of shoes, but newer. You can tell by the nail marks.
Yeah, but does it prove that Hargrave came down here only after his partner was killed?
Oh, now, wait a minute, Dollar. You're forgetting that Bill was in Carson City when this happened.
Yeah? When what happened? The murder? Or the caving in of the stope?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Murder him, then try to cover it up with a cave-in.
Now, look, Doctor.
Hal Barker says that a state geologist told him he found signs that a small nitro charge may have been used near the entrance to this mine.
But if Bill... You mean you think Bill killed him down here and then had somebody else start the cave-in while he was over in Carson City?
Let somebody else in on it? No. Bill killed him, he probably set off that charge, too.
But don't you see, if he was over...
Didn't you ever hear of an explosion being set off with some kind of a timer?
Well, yeah, sure, of course I have, but that still doesn't give us any proof that Bill did this.
The fact remains that Bill Hargrave is the only one who can possibly profit by his partner's death, right?
Sure, I'll go along with that, all right, but unless you can find some proof that he did this, well...
Well, I don't know. But while you're poking around in the dark down here, I'm going to pay a little visit to Bill Hargrave.
Go ahead. But why?
Well, I told you, officer. I don't know. The police officer stayed inside the mine in the hope of finding some definite clue to the killer of Walter Bisbee. Several things convinced him that Bill Hargrave hadn't done it. What Bill had said about his partner, their relationship over the years, Bill's known presence in Carson City at the time the mine collapsed, and my theory that an explosion was set off by some timing mechanism was only a theory. Even the fact that Bill was his partner's beneficiary didn't prove anything. And Bill had been among the first to volunteer to help and try to recover the body, and found a way to get down to it that nobody else had thought of. Yeah, very convincing. Almost too much so. At least enough to make me more suspicious than ever. Suspicious of Bill Hargrave.
Just a little sort of shack on the edge of town, Johnny.
Okay, then let's head for it, Hal.
Well, of course, he may have gone over to Miss Crutch's boarding house to take care of Walter's things.
Hey, you mean in spite of all their palsy-walsy over the years, they didn't share the same living quarters?
Well, up to a few months ago, yes.
So maybe they had a falling out, huh? In spite of Hargrave's pretty little speech.
Well, Johnny, I must confess, I believe what he said. They were still working together. Maybe Bill just got tired of Walter's cooking or vice versa.
Oh, after 20 years.
Well, sure.
Look, Hal, you're the one who was suspicious of Bill Hargrave right from the beginning.
I know, Johnny. I know.
Well...
But unless you can find some proof that he did it, after his behavior back there at the mine...
You better do this, Hal, after you let me off at Bill's place. Go on back to the mine and bring that policeman over here to join me.
Oh? Well, now, Johnny...
Just do as I say, will you, huh?
Well, did you see something? Have you discovered something you haven't told me about? Or the officer?
No, yes, maybe. I don't know. Hal, I honestly don't know. But there was something back there. Something you or the officer told me? I don't know. Something down there in the mine.
Well, here we are. Here's the shack Bill lives in.
Wait a minute.
What, yeah?
Maybe that's it, yeah.
What, Johnny?
Yeah. Hey, listen. Before he leaves that mine, tell the officer to take one more good long look at the footprint we found in the dust.
Huh? Well, just exactly what is that?
Tell him that, Hal. Then tell him to get on over here fast.
Well, then you have thought of something to pin it on Hargrave.
I told you, Hal. I don't know. Hargrave wasn't there. Maybe he had gone over to the boarding house to look after his partner's belongings. Maybe. Well, with the help of my pocket knife, I managed to slip the catch in the front door of the shack. I closed it after me and took a look around. Well, it was pretty obvious things hadn't been going good for Bill, and for quite some time. I looked first for the pair of shoes, one of which could have made the print on the floor of the mine. But I didn't really care, and a pair of shoes could easily be gotten rid of. Oh, no. I was looking for something else, but just what I wasn't sure. That is, until I found it, hanging on the wall above the cot where he slept, just to one side of the door. Yeah, it was an old lever-action rifle. Unusual in this part of the country? Hardly. There were thousands of these old 30-30s around here. Guns of this make and type had been part of the history of the Old West. Still were a part of it. Oh, no. There wasn't a thing unusual about finding this kind of a gun hanging on the wall of a miner's shack. But about this particular one, there was something unusual. And as I laid it down on the bed and looked at it, as I thought about that footprint back in the mine...
Hey! Oh, why, Mr. Dollar.
Yeah, come in, Hargrave.
Sure. Now, what are you doing here?
Oh, just looking around. You mind?
Oh, of course not, only...
You see, when a man's partner gets killed, I like to know all I possibly can about him. His habits, where he lives, how well he's been doing.
Yeah, but this is my place.
I know.
Walter was living over at Miss Crutcher's boarding house. I was just over there taking care of his... Oh, you mean you want to know all about me?
That's right.
Well, now, Mr. Dollar...
Sit down, Bill. And tell me just what kind of a timer you used to set off an explosion in that gold mine?
What?
Or do we have to tear that hill apart in the hopes of finding bits and pieces of it?
And it looks like we're coming to a conclusion here of the Stope of Death Matter, an episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, as it was broadcast October 12th, 1960, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll have the conclusion of this matter, and then we'll have another part of the Picture Postcard Matter from 1956. That'll be coming up in just a few moments. But first, we have some important words for your favorite radio station, so hang on. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and the Stope of Death Matter from October 2nd, 1960.
And tell me just what kind of a timer you used to set off an explosion in that gold mine.
What?
Or do we have to tear that hill apart in the hopes of finding bits and pieces of it?
What are you talking about, Mr. Dollar?
Too bad the blast didn't fill up that stope completely, though, isn't it?
What?
Yeah, then the rocks would have pounded Walter's body enough to hide any sign of the way that he was kicked to death.
Well, now, look, sir, I'm
So when you
afraid
came
I
back
don't-
from Carson City and found the police were going to clear a way into that stope, you played it smart.
Dollar, you don't
You
know
played
what
along
you're
with
talking
them. You found a way into the mine through the ventilating shaft. You found the body. You told us that Bisbee had been murdered. Well, it really fooled him, Bill. It convinced him you were clean. But you overlooked one thing.
You don't know what you're saying.
That footprint down there in the dust. Oh, you changed shoes after you killed him. And no doubt you got rid of those old ones where no one would ever find them. And you left new prints with the new shoes you're wearing now to show they're different. But that one footprint, Bill,
What about it, Dollar?
when you stood there and kicked him, stood on your right foot and kicked him with your left.
So what? What about it?
And then when I came here a few minutes ago and found that rifle there on the bed, found the shiny spot on the right-hand side of the stock. Yeah, look, there. See how shiny it is? Do you see it, Bill?
Well, what about it? What about it?
Only a left-handed man polishes the right side of a gun stock when he rests his cheek against it.
All right,
The
Dollar.
same as he stands on his right foot and uses the left one to kick his partner to death. Well?
All right. All right, so I killed him, but you won't live to tell anybody
Oh,
that.
you're a fool, Hargrave.
You're going to be a dead one.
Do you think I would have left that gun on the bed with the shells in it?
You mean...
I mean this! Phew. Son of a gun. I guess I really should have thought to take the shells out of that thing. So maybe there were dozens of left-handed men around Virginia City, and who knows, maybe there were some right-handers who kicked with the left foot. But Bill just didn't happen to think of that when he confessed the killing. Expense account total, including all the incidentals I can think of, and the flight back to Hartford, $248.75. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here is our star to tell you about next week's story.
Next week, a most unusual case where murder isn't murder at all. Where the whole thing is based on the confession of a dying man to something he did some years before. Oh, his confession is true. It's backed up by all the facts in the case. There can be no question of them or the confession itself. And yet the twist at the end of the story, well, all I can tell you is it'll take you completely by surprise. So join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, originates in Hollywood and is written, produced, and directed by Jack Johnstone. Heard in our cast were Herschel Bernardi, Russell Thorson, and Forrest Lewis. Be sure to join us next week, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This is John Wall speaking.
From October 2nd, 1960, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Coming up next, more yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Hey, we go from a 1960 edition of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, to part 2 of a 5-part yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This, the Picture Postcard Matter. This episode originally broadcast October 2nd, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
Inspector Herniger of the Zurich Police, Herr Dollar.
Oh, yeah, Inspector. I talked to one of your men last night.
Yeah, when you report the murder of this man called Sebastian.
Yeah, any line on this killer?
Not as yet. We are somewhat at a loss as to motive.
That I think I can supply.
So?
Sebastian apparently had information about the robbery of some uncut diamonds here in Zurich.
So?
Yeah, and he was willing to sell his information. But somebody called off the sale permanently. So find the man who lifted the stones, and we'll have Sebastian's killer.
Perhaps.
You don't sound convinced.
It appears quite possible, Herr Dollar, that Sebastian was killed by a woman.
Tonight, and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Home Office, Global Casualty, Hartford, Connecticut. Assignment, the Picture Postcard Matter. Location, Zurich, Switzerland. Expense account continued. Item 6, $1 even, cab fare from the Polo Hotel to police headquarters. Inspector Herniger was a big man who moved and talked slowly. But one look at his very cold, slate-gray eyes told you his brain was moving a lot faster.
Herr Dollar, I believe you told my lieutenant last evening that you were an insurance investigator.
That's right, Inspector.
And that you are in Zurich to investigate loss of 100,000 American dollars in diamonds at the airport a few days ago.
Right.
Well, perhaps you had better supply me with such background as you may have.
Gladly. The robbery itself, of course, you know about.
A fight broke out at the airport. We know that it was, as you say, rigged to create confusion.
Yeah, and in the confusion, the courier who was carrying the stones was slugged. His briefcase was cut away from his wrist.
Whereupon the assailants quickly melted away into the crowd. The exactness of their timing suggests that they were well organized and had planned the robbery in some detail.
The next day, the company I'm representing got a letter from this man, Sebastian. He claimed to have information on the robbery and would help us recover the stones for a price.
And you were sent to contact this Sebastian?
Yeah. Or rather, I was sent here so that Sebastian could contact me.
And did he?
He did. But as it turned out, he practically had to stand in line.
I am afraid I do not follow you.
Well, first off, a very attractive young lady popped into my cab as I was leaving the airport for the hotel, asked to share the cab.
Oh?
2 blocks later, she had the driver stop, planted a kiss on me, and jumped out.
Indeed. You Americans seem to work fast, Herr Dollar.
Yeah, I'm afraid I can't chalk up the incident to my personal charm, Inspector. She left her purse in the cab, and I gather the idea was to make somebody else think she'd passed the diamonds to me.
And who would this somebody else be?
A guy who jumped me in the lobby of the Polo Hotel. He was pretty convinced I had the stones.
And how would the dead man Sebastian fit in?
Well, it's my hunch. Sebastian was a member of the outfit who stole them in the first place. He could have been trying to play both ends against the middle.
How do you arrive at that conclusion?
Well, look, we know there were several members of the group. Okay, so they're bound to take a big loss when they fence the diamonds. They'd be lucky to get half the value, which would be $50,000.
True.
Split 3 or 4 ways, that would cut the shares down considerably. But if Sebastian could engineer the return of the stones and collect a $25,000 reward for it, he'd be way ahead of the game.
And Sebastian was secretly negotiating with you?
Yeah, behind a newspaper in the hotel lobby. He wanted me to meet him in his room later so we could talk. I went there. I found him in the bathtub dead.
And he had given you no specific information as to the location of the diamonds?
Only this, Inspector.
A picture postcard?
Uh-huh. The Kleibach Inn. He told me Kleibach was a small resort village up in the Alps.
I know the place. The card is addressed to Sebastian and signed by F. Gruner.
He said Gruner was a friend of his.
Perhaps the diamonds are at the Kleibach Inn?
He said no, that this card was only part of the key to finding them.
And he gave you no indication as to what the rest of the key to their location was?
No, none at all. I gathered that's what we were going to talk about in his room later. But somebody else apparently had different ideas.
Yeah.
Say, look, you said over the phone that Sebastian's killer could have been a woman.
Well, he was struck on the head from behind, but only hard enough to stun him. His death was due to drowning in the bathtub. Many times in our experience, women have chosen such a method.
The woman, then, could be Ilse.
Yeah. Or perhaps one of Sebastian's gang who learned of his plans. Very annoying, Herr Dollar. Many possibilities.
But nothing tangible. Well, I'm heading for that place on the postcard, Inspector.
The Kleibach Inn?
Yeah. At this point, part of a key is better than none. Expense account item 7, $16.20 American. Transportation and incidentals to the Kleibach Inn. The postcard didn't do justice to the place. The village nestled in a little meadow below some towering peaks. Oh, above it was the inn, a chalet-type building that looked out over the valley. And it was a peaceful scene. A few cows in the meadow with jangling bells. A lot of snow on the peaks. A sky of startlingly clear blue and a few wisps of clouds nudging the peaks. Inside, the inn looked spacious and comfortable, with a friendly fire crackling in the huge fireplace, and a friendly-looking fellow behind the desk.
Welcome to the Kleibach Inn.
Well, thanks.
Please sign here.
Okay.
Thank you, Herr Dollar, is it?
Yeah. You the manager?
Yeah, I am Otto Friedrich, your host.
Well, maybe you could help me, Otto.
I am at your service.
All right. Take a look at this postcard. Oh, what's the matter?
That is not the good picture of the inn. I had some new ones made. You see, the lighting is wrong in this picture. The entire north wing is in the shadows. Now, in the good picture...
Yeah. Well, what I want to know is, do you sell these cards here?
Not those cards, no. I have the new cards. See, here is one. Now, see how much better...
Well, how about in the village? Do they sell the old cards there?
Yeah, I'm afraid so, in one or two shops. I have told them 100 times I will give them the new ones if only they will. You see, it's...
Yes, it's the lighting. You ever hear the name Sebastian around here?
Sebastian.
No need to memorize it. Just tell me if you've heard it, please.
Is it a first name or a last name?
There you've got me.
Sebastian. No, I do not remember hearing that name. I'll be glad to check my register for you.
How about F. Gruner? He's the one who sent the card to Sebastian.
Gruner.
Gruner.
Perhaps I heard the name in the village somewhere. Or I will see what I can find out.
Okay, thanks.
In the meantime, I hope you'll be comfortable here and enjoy your visit. Ski equipment is at your disposal.
Thanks. But I'll enjoy my visit a lot more if I can find F. Gruner. Okay, coming. Yeah?
Oh, I say, I'm looking for a chap named Dollar who's supposed to be occupying this room.
I'm Johnny Dollar.
You? Are you certain?
Reasonably. Why?
Oh, what a pity.
Well, I'm sorry, old man, but there's not very much I can do about it.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I say you must forgive me.
Must I?
Well, I mean, you see, I used to know a chap in London named Dollar. Delightful fellow, really. Incidentally, I'm Geoffrey Harris. Oh, we had ripping times together.
How jolly for you.
And when I heard that a chap named Dollar had registered here at the inn, well, naturally, I thought it must be old Bunny.
Bunny?
Yes, old Bunny Dollar. Oh, Bunny was just a nickname, you see.
Well, that's reassuring, Harris.
You know, there is a bit of a resemblance. You wouldn't mind a chance to be his brother or cousin, would you?
No.
Well, after all, Dollar's a bit of an odd name, and I thought...
No, I'm sorry. If you'll excuse me, I'm on my way downstairs.
Oh, splendid. Well, so am I.
Oh?
It's quite a coincidence, is
it?
Well, running to you in this way, I mean, you're absolutely sure that you don't know Bunny Dollar?
This I can guarantee.
Oh, what a pity. He's really worlds of fun.
Oh, yes, I can imagine. But what do you know?
What's that?
Oh, nothing. I just spotted an old friend over at the bar. See you later, Harris.
Oh, I see. So I can see your point, old man.
Well, hello, Ilse. It is Ilse Schaefer, isn't it?
Why, You're the one.
That's right. Johnny Dollar, the one you shared a cab with back in Zurich.
Yes, of course. What a coincidence.
Isn't it?
Incidentally, Johnny, I want to thank you for turning my purse in. It was foolish of me to leave it in your cab.
Just an oversight, huh?
Well, yes, of course.
I mean, you didn't by any chance leave it in the cab on purpose, huh?
Well, of course not. Why would I do a thing like that?
Oh, maybe so somebody else would think you passed something along to me in that cab, besides a kiss.
That kiss. I suppose I shouldn't have been so impulsive.
Oh, I didn't object to that. But I did object to a muzzle man jumping me and acting like you had given me something.
Oh? What was I supposed to have given you?
You don't have any idea?
No, honestly, I don't.
Okay, we'll let that ride for the time being. Mind if I ask what you're doing here at the Klabach Inn?
Oh, this is a favorite spot of mine. I like to ski.
Oh?
You don't seem convinced. I really am quite a good skier, Johnny.
Are you?
As a matter of fact, I plan to go skiing in the morning. Would you like to come with me?
Well, now, that might be pretty interesting. Just a minute. I'll go check with Otto, see if I can borrow some skis. Be right back.
All right, Johnny.
Herr Dollar. And how are you enjoying your stay so far?
Just fine, Otto, fine. Look, about that girl over at the bar.
Fräulein Schäfer. Oh, a most attractive young lady, no?
A most attractive young lady, yes. This seems to be a favorite spot of hers.
I am very happy to hear that, Herr Dollar.
I suppose she comes here often, huh?
This is her first visit to the Klabach Inn.
You're sure about that?
Of course. I would certainly remember a young lady like her. Yes, this is her first visit, but I hope it will not be her last.
Don't count on it, Otto. So Elsa was lying about coming here often. It could mean she'd lied about a few other things, too, like leaving her purse in my cab accidentally. She might have been trying to make it look like she'd passed the stolen diamonds on to me and thus take the heat off herself and whoever she was working with. I remembered what Inspector Honegger had told me, that Sebastian's killer could be a woman. I went back to the bar.
Did you arrange for the skis?
Yeah, I guess I'm all set.
Good. Tomorrow morning, then.
All right, where?
Well, I had in mind the North Slope, but perhaps you would not like that.
Why not?
Some people consider it too dangerous.
Oh, I don't think I should worry about the danger, do you? Mm-hmm. After all, Elsa, I'll be in the best of hands.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll take good care of me.
I will certainly try to, Johnny.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow, well, skiing's a strenuous sport. So is hunting. Put them together, and it's liable to kill you. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Robert Reif. It is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
October 2nd, 1956, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Would you please thank this radio station and support their advertisers? It is their kindness and courtesy that allows Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite radio station. Now, if you miss a day on this station, you don't have to miss a single episode of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, because all of our shows are available at my webpage, classicradio.stream. Classicradio.stream. There you can stream our shows, learn more about classic radio collecting. You can contact me there. You can find information about podcast sites that have our show as well. And of course, if you'd like to help us expand our classic radio collection, you can buy me a coffee. That helps us bring you new shows that we don't have in our library currently, so you can help us with that. That's buy me a coffee at classicradio.stream. Classicradio.stream. Thank this station, support the advertisers, tell your friends great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.